installation on a special altar. Though he called many respectable holy men to preside over the ceremony, he was so completely engrossed in thoughts of possessing the jewel that he forgot to invite Krishna to the ceremony to receive his blessings.
We've all seen fire yajnas. There's the fire in the middle of the oven. There's the pujari offering a lamp to the fire, and over there to the right, look closely, you can see the effulgent Shamantaka jewel. And many guests were invited, but he was so filled with himself and all of that, he when he entered Dwarka, he didn't even offer respects to Krishna, although he knew Krishna's position. When the event came, he didn't invite Krishna. Those are two strikes, and he's going to strike out shortly.
Being a worshipper of the demigods, Satyajit had become too materialistic. Thus, sometime later, when Krishna asked him to give the jewel to Ugrasena, the Yadu king, Satyajit refused. Instead, he thought it wiser to worship the jewel himself, so he could get the 170 pounds of gold every day.
Now, Krishna didn't ask for the jewel for himself. He could have, but he didn't. He asked that the jewel be given to the king, because in Vedic culture, that which is most valuable goes to the supreme person in the area, your deity, or your spiritual master, or the king. So Krishna wasn't the king. Ugrasena was the king. So that which is most valuable should be given to the king. And he said no. He just struck out. And that means he's going to get some reaction for those three things. Let's hear what happens next.
One day, Satyajit's brother, Prasena, to show off his family's opulence, hung the jewel around his neck and rode off into the forest on horseback to hunt. As he rode here and there along the forest path, a big lion watched him from a rock high above the road.
Look on the right. You see a lion who's very attracted to the jewel because it's glowing like the sun. And so Prasena, that's the king's brother, was also proud like his brother Satyajit.
Look at this man, the lion said to himself. How pridefully he rides with this great shiny jewel resting on his swollen chest. But I am the king of this forest, the owner of everything, and the master of everyone. This jewel is meant for me, the lion roared, to be worn around my kingly mane. Saying this, he leapt down upon Prasena and his horse, killed them both with his sharp teeth, and happily ran off with the Shamantaka jewel, leaving the two dead bodies on the road.
Did you see, as it was the lion's face, and then he jumped down, he jumped on the horse, he's carrying in his mouth, I guess, the jewel, and now, see, there he is, shining. Whoop, he just disappeared again. What's that?
It's too bad, he got killed.
Yeah. Okay, but it's not over yet. The story goes on.
Carrying the jewel in his mouth, the lion ran into a cave to enjoy the unique beauty of his trophy. As the jewel's splendid effulgence lit up the cave, the lion roared with great delight. Unfortunately, the lion had entered the cave of Jambavan, the king of the bears, who was a great devotee of Lord Ramachandra. Hearing the lion's roar within the entrance of his cave, Jambavan ran to protect his family.
Jambavan? How many here have you heard of Jambavan? Oh, great. So Jambavan lived for a long time because Lord Ramachandra was from a yuga prior to Krishna, but after Ramachandra left, Jambavan lived on. And he happened to be in a cave not far from Dwarka, and it's that cave where Jambavan was residing that the lion with the Shamantaka jewel went inside. What's next?
"Lion," Jambavan shouted, "why have you entered my home? And where did you get such a fine gem? From the blood on your paws, it appears you've killed someone to enjoy earthly splendor." The lion stood up infuriated. "How wrong you are, Jambavan. I'm the king of this jungle, the owner of everything. Retreat into your cave or die."
Chivalrous talk, followed by a battle.
Jambavan replied, "You fool! Don't you know everything belongs to the Supreme Lord? Get out of here, or I'll send you to the abode of Yamaraj." At this, the lion sprang at Jambavan, his sharp claws bared, his fangs glistening. But as an elephant easily crushes an ant, Jambavan slapped the lion dead with his mighty fist. Jambavan carried the lion's dead body outside and left it on the mountainside. When he returned to his cave, he saw the Shamantaka jewel lying on the ground. Being a great devotee of the Lord, Jambavan did not see the valuable jewel as something he very much needed. So he gave it to his little son to play with.
Because he had devotion, he was not interested in material opulence. He knew what material opulence was. As he said to the lion, "Where did you get this fine gem?" So he understood it was valuable, but he wasn't interested in the valuableness of this jewel. So it just became a toy for his little child. As we see, so the little child, the next slide, he's going to be playing with the jewel. Not next.
Meanwhile, back in Dwarka, Satyajit awaited the return of Prasenna. When he did not return, Satyajit became deeply troubled. Unaware that his brother had been killed by a lion, he began to think that Krishna must have killed Prasenna to take the jewel. This idea grew into a terrible rumor, which Satyajit spread like wildfire amongst all the residents of Dwarka. You saw for yourself how Krishna asked me to give him the Shamantaka jewel. Because I refused, he must have stolen it from Prasenna and killed him in the forest.
Which didn't happen. Yeah. But poor Prasenna, because of his pride got smashed, but instead of recognizing my pride was the problem, he's now pointing fingers. You've seen that happen before? Yeah. So he started a rumor. Now, one of the lessons, there's many lessons in this story, and when we're all done, I'm going to ask you, what should you do when somebody says something bad about you and it's just not true? There's different things you can do, but we're going to find out from Krishna what Krishna did. What Krishna do? The rumor's going on, and he knows the source of the rumor. And why? Because this prideful person, Satyajit. So he's going to take some action. This is a good thing for us to learn about what you may have a friend. If somebody says something bad about your friend or family member or something. Hey. Who's this little girl's mother or father? The one in the red shirt. You're very patient and tolerant. Is she your sister? She's your sister. See you later. Okay. So what's Krishna going to do is a lesson for what we should do when we hear that somebody's speaking falsely about you or somebody dear to you. This is an important lesson because it happens. If it hasn't happened yet, it's going to happen in your life. It'll probably happen more than once. So it's a good lesson to learn. Krishna's teaching us a lesson.
Satyajit spread this false rumor from house to house until it finally reached the lotus-like ears of Lord Sri Krishna within the palace walls. Wanting to remove the stain on his reputation, Krishna took some of Dwarka's leading citizens with him and set out to retrace Prasenna's path. In the forest, they soon found the mauled bodies of Prasenna and his horse, and further on, the body of the lion on the mountainside. Everybody could plainly see that the lion had been killed by the hand of Jambalan.
So what did Krishna do? In simple language, he stood by the truth. And to verify he was standing by the truth, he took elders, respected others, and brought them with him to verify what the truth was, because it wasn't true.
"Dear Lord," the citizens exclaimed, "just see how Prasenna and his horse were killed by the jaws of a lion. How horrible it is that Satyajit has accused you of such a terrible crime. We, your closest servants, never believed it."
So now what to do? It's not done yet.
The Lord replied, "I know your hearts, dear friends. Only fools would believe such a rumor. But I cannot allow my reputation to become sullied, and thus I must prove my innocence. Come along," Krishna continued. Since the jewel is no longer with Prasenna or the lion, Jambavan must have it. Along with his subjects, Krishna stood at the mouth of the pitch-black cave. "Dear Krishna," one citizen said, "this cave is very frightening. Its entrance is as dark as night, and it appears to have a very long tunnel within. Perhaps we should return home to get torches." Krishna stood before the mouth of the cave. "No, that won't be necessary. I will enter the tunnel alone. I don't think you should come with me. I don't want to endanger any of you. But I'm not afraid, and I'm sure I will find the Shamantaka jewel in this cave." "Oh Lord," the citizens replied, "please don't enter the cave alone. If any harm comes to you, we'll never forgive ourselves." "Don't worry," Krishna assured them. "I'll be back as soon as I recover the jewel."
So Krishna sends them back and goes into the cave.
Lord Krishna proceeded along the vast tunnel, deeper and deeper into the cave, until at last he entered Jambavan's home. There he saw a small child sitting on the ground, playing with the Shamantaka jewel. The child's nurse thought Krishna was a thief and cried out in fear.
That's it. Here comes Jambavan, hearing the nurse scream.
Upon hearing her cries, Jambavan, the strongest of the strong, ran toward the Lord. Jambavan was actually a great devotee of Lord Krishna, but because he was extremely angry, he could not recognize his master. Thinking the Lord to be an ordinary man, Jambavan challenged Krishna to a fight, and the Lord heartily accepted, wanting to enjoy a good tussle with his devotee. They fought furiously, like two opposing vultures. For 12 long days and nights, the residents of Dwarka waited outside the cave for Krishna to return. Then, fearing the worst, they returned to Dwarka with heavy hearts to inform King Ugrasena of all that had happened. Deep inside the cave, the battle between Krishna and Jambavan raged on. First, the two combatants struck each other with huge metal clubs. Then they began to hurl boulders at each other. Next, they took massive tree trunks and used those as clubs. And finally, they began striking each other with their fists, each blow sounding like the crack of thunder. The fighting went on day and night for 28 days.
That's a long time to do anything. What to speak of fighting?
Did they eat or drink water or sleep? Did they?
No sleep. 28 days. Well, Krishna can do that, but Jambavan? No sleep, day and night. He got tired. We'll hear.
At last, Jambavan's muscles began to weaken from the powerful pummeling of Lord Krishna's fists, and his strength began to falter. Greatly astonished, Jambavan finally spoke. My dear Lord, I can now understand who you are. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, the source of everyone's strength, wealth, fame, wisdom, and renunciation. You are the same Supreme Person whom I worship as Lord Ramachandra. No one else has such immeasurable strength to defeat me like this.
He became humble. Let's do a little review. Ready? Why was Jambavan unable to recognize Krishna? Wow, look at all those hands. Go ahead.
Because he was so angry.
He became angry. So we heard about pride. That's a problem. That brought about Satrajit's bad behavior. But anger is another one. Now, fortunately for Jambavan, Krishna wanted to remove anger from his heart, and so Krishna helped him. Now, sometimes we may become angry, and Krishna may help us. And when Krishna is helping us to become free from anger, it may hurt, because we're overwhelmed with anger, and our clarity is gone. We don't see that Krishna is being kind to help us become free from anger. But Jambavan's a great devotee, and so a little light went on, saying, no one is as strong as you to defeat me. Jambavan's really powerful. So you must be the Supreme Lord Vishnu. And you see him kneeling, now you see him bowing. His head keeps bowing down. Watch the little video thing. Bowing before Krishna.
Lord Krishna was satisfied by the submissive praise of Jambavan, and to mitigate his pain, the Lord began to gently rub his lotus palms all over Jambavan's body. At once, Jambavan felt complete relief from the pain and fatigue of the great battle.
Now imagine how Jambavan's heart is feeling. He's feeling very sorry, repentant for what carried him away from being able to recognize Krishna. He's enough of a devotee that he understands Krishna and Lord Ramachandra are the same, just a different Leela, and with a different Leela, a different feature of the Supreme Lord. So he's fully surrendered. So what's Jambavan going to do? He wants to not just say, gee, I'm sorry, but he wants to offer something, in addition to the Shamataka jewel.
Then the Lord spoke to his devotee with sublime compassion, his grave voice deeply resounding like a cloud. My dear King Jambavan, you, not the lion, are the true king of the jungle. O Lord of the bears, It is for the Shamantaka jewel that I have come to your cave. Since the disappearance of this jewel, fools have defamed me. Please, turn the jewel over to me now. Understanding the whole situation, Jambavan immediately placed the magnificent jewel around the Lord's neck with great devotion. He also offered his beautiful maiden daughter, Jambavati, to join Krishna as his wife. Accepting both the Shamantaka jewel and Jambavati, Krishna happily married her within the mountain cave.
That was a pretty quick marriage. Now, who was Krishna's first queen? Raise your hand. Krishna's first queen was Rukmini. That's another evening to tell the Rukmini story. So this is queen number 2. Jambavati, who is the daughter of Jambavan, they became married right in a cave. It's kind of an unusual marriage, but that's okay. Right in a cave. And then?
Earlier, when the citizens had returned from the forest without Krishna, the Lord's family had plunged into an ocean of sorrow, and they had cursed Satyajit as the cause of Krishna's disappearance. They decided to pray to the demigoddess Durga for Krishna's safe return. And as soon as they had finished their prayers, the goddess promised to grant their request. Just then, Lord Krishna appeared before them with his new wife on his arm and the brilliant Shamantaka jewel around his neck.
They were very sad, now they're very happy. Krishna not only came, he's got the jewel, and he's got a second wife with him.
Overjoyed, the residents of Dwarka at once prepared to celebrate the return of their Lord. Lord Krishna summoned Satyajit to the royal assembly, and in the presence of King Ugrasena, announced the recovery of the jewel. Then, he formally presented the jewel to Satyajit. Hanging his head in shame, Satyajit took the gem and returned home.
Now, Krishna is not the king of Dwarka. Ugrasena is the king. But Krishna is a chief personality in the royal assembly. So we see Ugrasena sitting in the central and large throne, and Krishna is by his side. So while they're sitting on this elevated seat in the royal assembly, Satyajit was invited to come, and in front of everyone, so they could see, they certainly had heard what happened, and the offense, harsh, rumor-spreading offense of Satyajit, Krishna gave him back the jewel. He didn't ask for an apology. He didn't, shame him or blame him or anything like that. He just returned the jewel. And everybody knew what had happened. It wasn't what Satyajit had said. So now what happens?
As he pondered the grievous offense he had committed against Krishna, Satyajit worried about possible conflict with the Lord's mighty devotees. Then he thought, how can I cleanse myself of my sin? And how may Lord Krishna become satisfied with me? What can I do to regain my good fortune and avoid being cursed for my offensive and foolish, miserly behavior? I know. I shall give Lord Krishna my daughter Satyabhama, the jewel of all women, along with the Shamantaka jewel.
So the stage is set. He wants to protect his backside because he knows he's going to get a big negative reaction from the citizens of Dwarka that love Krishna, and he's defamed Lord Krishna. He's going to get a big reaction from the citizens. So to avoid or to minimize, he decides to give charity to Krishna. Here's the jewel, and here's my jewel-like daughter in marriage. It's a grand gesture on his part. So let's hear what Krishna does.
Hoping to thus pacify the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Satyajit arranged the marriage ceremony of Krishna and his beautiful daughter Satyabhama, and the Lord married her in proper religious fashion. Being pleased with Satyajit, Lord Krishna said, "It is better to let the Shamantaka jewel remain in the temple as you have kept it. In this way, since the jewel's presence in the city guarantees the absence of famine and other disturbances, every one of us will benefit."
He knew that Satyajit was attached. So although he surrendered the jewel, he was attached. Knowing that he was attached, he gave him back the jewel with the thought that the jewel being here in Dwarka, the benefit will go to all the citizens. You can keep the gold, that's okay. But the health and the not having famine or any shortages or any other difficulties like that, all the citizens of Dwarka will benefit. You keep the jewel, I'll accept your wife. Accept your daughter as my wife. So?
Lord Krishna knew that in his heart, Satyajit had no real desire to give the jewel away, and so, having already acquired Satyajit's greatest treasure, the pure, gem-like Satyabhama, Krishna was happy to let Satyajit keep the Shamantaka jewel.
Now that's the end of the chapter. It's not the end of the story, because some other things happen in the story. But the BBT just covered this chapter in this one little video, and I'm going to start asking some questions.
It is said that anyone who hears the narration of the Supreme Lord's pastimes, such as the story of the Shamantaka jewel, or describes these pastimes, or even simply remembers them, is freed from all reactions to impious activities and attains the highest state of perfect peace.
Very good, huh? Good music, great narrator. Kripamoy is a great. You want to add something?
How many wives does Krishna have? He seems to have a lot.
Up to this point, he has now 3. Number 1, Rukmini. Number 2, Jambavati. Number 3, Satyabhama. And after this story, that's the first 3, there's another 5. They make the principal queens, that's 8. 8 queens. And then later there's another description where there's some princesses that were kidnapped and put in prison, and Krishna killed the man that put them in prison and freed them from prison. And they said, because we've been in this prison with this bad guy, no man is going to want to marry us. Can you marry us? So Krishna married them. So the total number was your question. 16,100 queens or princesses plus 8. So Krishna built a palace for each one, and he expanded himself into 16,108 Krishnas to be with each one. They didn't get lonely. He was there in his expansion in Dwarka. 16,108. Yes?
What about Radha?
She's back in Vrindavan. But the good news is, Rupa Goswami teaches us in his writings that Radha and all, you ready? You haven't heard this one before. Put your seatbelt on. Rupa Goswami writes that each of the gopis has their expansion counterpart who became queens in Dwarka. So Radha's expansion in Dwarka is Satyabhama. And Chandravali, you've heard her name? Chandravali, she's one of the gopis, chief gopis. Her form in Krishna's Leela is Rukmini. But your question was, where's Radha? She's in Vrindavan. She never leaves Vrindavan. And in another sense, Krishna in his original feature doesn't leave Vrindavan either. By expansion he goes and he performs pastimes. And their expansions go and they perform pastimes. That's, Krishna conscious, that's Bhakti 401. It's like a high level. But you asked a question. She's back in Vrindavan. Eternally. With Krishna eternally. But someone back here had his hand up first. Go ahead.
Who's the king, Satyajit or Ugrasena?
What happened to Satyajit? That's what you want to know?
Who's the king, Satyajit or Ugrasena?
What's
Who is the
question?
king?
Who is the king? Satyajit or Ugrasena?
The king is Ugrasena. Satyajit's kingdom was over there. Somewhere outside of Dwarka. Near, but not in.
Okay.
So he came to visit Dwarka, and he had a place in Dwarka, but his kingdom was elsewhere. Satyajit's kingdom, it doesn't say where, but not far from Dwarka, but outside Dwarka. You're next, and then you're next. Go ahead.
Where is the Shamkanka jewel now?
Where's the Samanchakra jewel now? That's what you want to know? You want to take a look at it, or you want to have it? Just want to know, just curious. Well, there's no indication. I have not heard anything or read anything where the Samanchakra jewel is today. The possibility, here's a possibility. There's several possibilities. One possibility is it went back to the sun god. That's a possibility. But I've not read anything or heard anything, so don't know. Yes?
Wait, where in India, did this story take, is...
What's your question? Is it
where in India did,
Dwarka?
but, where's, Dwarka?
Where's Dwarka? It's on the map. It's by the Indian Ocean. You look at a map. Should I get a map of India out and project it on the screen? Here's India. Here's India. It's up in the northwest part, along the ocean. Because Dwarka was built, you know the story? Dwarka was built when Jarasandha and Kalyavana attacked Krishna from two different directions. You know about that?
No.
You know about Krishna killing Kamsa, right? So, okay. When Krishna killed Kamsa, he had two queens. The two queens were daughters of Jarasandha. So when their husband, Kamsa, was killed by Krishna, they went back to Jarasandha. His kingdom was in today's Bihar. You know where Bihar is on the map?
Yeah.
Okay. So Magadha was called at that time. So they went back to Jarasandha's kingdom and said, Daddy, Krishna killed our husband. Take revenge. So he took a vow. I'll take revenge. I'm going to get so many Akshohini divisions of soldiers and we'll go smash not only Krishna but the whole of Mathura, because that's where this thing happened, where killing of Kamsa, and where the two sisters were living as wives. So Jarasandha came with his whole army, and Krishna defeated the whole army, except for one person, Jarasandha, standing alone on the battlefield. You can go home now. So he was humiliated. And he was thinking as he was going back to his Magadha kingdom, I should give up my life. Humility is worse than death for a Kshatriya. It's for one who has once been honored, dishonor is worse than death. You've heard that saying before? It's a saying. It's a saying. For one who has once been honored, dishonor is worse than death. So he went back thinking, I'm going to give up my life. His minister said, no, no, no. It was just one of those things. You weren't ready, and da-da-da. And get another army, go kill Krishna. He did it. He was defeated again the same way, total of 17 times. This is right in Krishna book and the 10th Canto Bhagavatam. So what happened was, by divine arrangement, there was another king, where Mathura is nearby today's New Delhi. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, near. It's a little bit away, but it's not far. So Mathura was the kingdom of Kamsa. And geographically, Bihar or Magadha is to the east. But there was another king that was in today's, like Afghanistan, that direction. And his name was Kalyavana. He was a Yavana. Anyways, long story, it's in Krishna book. Kalyavana wanted to fight. And he couldn't find anybody equal to him in fight. So he asked Narada, who's the most powerful army in all of the world today? In Mathura. The Yadu dynasty, they're the most powerful. Great. I'm bringing my whole army. I'm going. So he came from the northwest, and coincidentally, they didn't send text message or anything. Jarasandha came from the east, and he came from the northwest, attacking Mathura at the same time. So what did Krishna do? Krishna said to Balaram, the Yadu citizens may be at risk, these powerful armies. You hold them off. I'm going to arrange for Vishwakarma to build another city and to transport all the Yadu members to that other city. That other city was Dwarka. It was built like in a jiffy by Vishwakarma. You've heard his name? Vishwakarma is the architect of the demigods. So he built it as a city on an island within the sea. Not, a little causeway or a little, way to get over to the city of Dwarka, or by boat. And Krishna settled, everybody came back. So where is Dwarka? It's in the northwest part of India, actually an island within the sea. And at the time of Krishna's departure, he arranged for the city of Dwarka to disappear. You can look online and you have scuba divers and people looking for where's the lost city of Dwarka. And people have found remains of a city at the bottom of the sea, not far from the shore. So that's where Dwarka was. And there's a city of Dwarka that's not underwater. It's a city of Dwarka today. And it's the northwest part of India, by the sea. Okay?
Okay.
Now someone else was waving their arm. Who wants to say something? Okay, I'm going to ask you all some questions. You ready? This is lesson time. There's many lessons. Can you think of, rather than just, I'll ask you the questions of which lessons. What are some of the lessons that you've learned from hearing this story?
What to do when someone falsely accuses you of something?
Yeah, good one. So I gave an answer. You remember what the answer that I gave?
No, it was the same.
You have another answer. You have another question or another lesson?
Another one.
Okay, let's just do this one. When somebody falsely accuses you or someone who is very dear to you, and you know that they're falsely accused, what to do?
Try to find evidence to prove.
Yeah, stand by the truth. Don't deviate from the truth. There's this nice saying, Dharma, where's Uttam Bhakta? Is he here? Dharma rakshata rakshataha. You know what the word dharma means, right? No. Dharma means religion or codes of conduct or proper behavior. Dharma. Religious duty. Those who protect dharma are protected by dharma. That's what that phrase means. Those who protect dharma are protected by dharma. So stand by the truth, because dharma is truth, and just stand by the truth. And the smoke will clear, because stand by the truth. For a while, there's smoke. Stand by the truth, and when the smoke clears, what's left is truth. So just stand by the truth. So the way that Krishna chose was he looked for evidence, but he didn't just go look for evidence. He brought neutral people who everybody looked up to and respected. And, let's go see what the real story is. Because he's omniscient, but you and I are not omniscient. But so find out what the real story is. And then you stand by the truth. He didn't defend himself. He could have done all kinds of things. We can do all kinds of things. We can get into a revenge or finger pointing. He didn't do any of that. He stood by the truth. Now, I'm going to spend a little bit of time and help you with what to do when falsely accused. There are some nice statements from the scripture that tells us what to do. So this is in response to the Shamataka jewel story. But here's a statement from Madhu Samhita. Is somebody here a good reader? You want me to read? You want to read? You're a good reader? Okay. So speak loudly. This is from Madhu Samhita, what to do when unjustly criticized.
Throughout his life, a
Brahmana
should consider material prestige to be like poison and dishonor, to be like nectar. After all, if one learns to tolerate dishonor, then his agitation will subside, and he will happily sleep, happily wake, and happily move about. The person who insults him will because of his sin, become regretful, and his happiness in this and the next life will be vanquished.
So the person who accuses somebody falsely will suffer. There's other statements that says they'll suffer exactly what they think the person who has done a wrong thing should suffer. That's Manu Samhita. Here's what another reader. Okay, in the red sweatshirt. Here we go. This is from Mahabharata. Go ahead.
The ignorant seek to injure the wise by malice and backbiting. By doing so, the critic takes upon himself the load of the wise man's sins, which he, the wise man, casts off by forgiving the ignorant.
This is Vidura speaking to Dhritarashtra. You know who these two personalities are, right? No? No? Okay, that's a long... The tell Mahabharata story is going to take another hour. Yeah. So Vidura, keep it simple. Vidura is wise, and Dhritarashtra is his elder brother, but blind. And he's not only materially blind, he's also spiritually blind. Because he's got another internal problem, that is, he's too much attached. Too much attached. Too much attached to the idea that he should be the king. Or if not me, then my sons. So because he's blinded by attachment, some bad things were planned to hurt the Pandavas. Like Arjuna is one of the Pandavas, right? And he had 4 other brothers. Yudhisthira, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula, and Sahadev. You've heard those names, right? Those are the 5 Pandavas. So Dhritarashtra was interested in harming the 5 Pandavas because he was blinded by the idea that I should become the king or my sons should become the king. So Vidura is the younger brother who's very wise, and he's advising his older brother, the blind one. Ignorant, only persons who are ignorant, they seek to injure the wise by bad talk and backbiting. When they do that, the sins of the wise person go upon them, and the wise person releases whatever sins they may have by forgiveness. So if someone, forgiveness is important. If someone criticizes you unjustly, don't get into, I want to get back, I want to retaliate. Don't do that. I mean, that's one of the lessons. Krishna didn't do that. Don't do that. But you forgive. Krishna forgave Satyajit. Let's hear another statement from another section of Mahabharata. Yes, go ahead.
Person being criticized should not criticize in retaliation for the pain felt upon receiving criticism. If endured, will itself consume the critic and bring in exchange the results of his good deeds.
So the good deeds of the person who's criticizing goes to the one who's being criticized. But there's a requirement. It's just, you tolerate. You don't retaliate. You know it's not true. You stand by the truth. And you tolerate. And the critic gets a reaction. And the good deeds of the critic goes to the person being criticized. This is Dharma. Here's another Mahabharata reference. Go ahead. Who's our reader? You want to read? Go ahead, read. Loud.
One who remains tolerant, not becoming angry, certainly attains the abuser
Pious.
credits. Indeed, his own sins are transferred to that wrathful person.
You know what wrathful person means? That's wrath. Anger. So someone is feeling badly. That's the wrathful person. And he's criticizing an innocent person. The sins of that person, the sins of the one being criticized is transferred to the criticizer. And the pious deeds of the criticizer goes to the one being criticized. So stand by the truth. And then these are things that happen. One more, and we're going to move on. Who is your final reader? Go ahead. Loud.
A person who praises someone in his presence but criticizes him behind his back is no better than a dog. His chances for elevation to higher
elevation, lifting.
Elevation to a higher planet or completely spoiled in this world.
Okay. So that's Mahabharata teaching Dharma. And we heard another reference, teaching Manu Samhita, teaching about Dharma, what to do. Okay, somebody else wanted to volunteer a lesson. Who was it was going to, another lesson? Go ahead.
So,
You forgot. We'll come back if you can't remember. So,
yeah, I remember. So, like, don't stay too attached to materialistic.
oh boy, good girl. Because what happens when you become too much attached?
You get pride and you forget about this.
Yeah, you forget everything. Wait, just hold it. Don't let it slip away.
You get like everything you wanted, but you lose something that's even more important.
And that's what this question is. Who or what is the real jewel? There's the Shamataka jewel, but it's not getting the Shamataka jewel that's the real jewel.
That's the question I was going to answer.
Really? What's the answer?
I mean, in the story, it says Satyabhama,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure if that's the right answer.
Okay. What do you think is the right answer? You're not sure, but you're just not sure that Satyabhama is the right answer. Well, she's the goddess of fortune. Remember, what about Radharani? Remember that question? Satyabhama. She's the jewel. She's Krishna's consort outside of Vrindavan, and within Vrindavan, it's all the gopis, but especially Radharani, and in Dwaraka, it's Satyabhama. So the jewel-like. The relationship of Radha and Krishna is the topmost. The relationship between Krishna and Satyabhama, as well as Rukmini, and the other queens, is topmost. But that's on the rasa, or the prema platform. So, what brought about? Someone else wanted to say some lesson. What was some? You want to say some lesson? No? Anyone else here in the room have one lesson did we learn? Don't become overly attached to wealth. Don't become angry, because angry also makes one blind. And here another lesson is when harsh things come your way, it's you tolerate, and you can tolerate if you have shelter. Supposing you don't have shelter and you just try to tolerate. I'm going to tolerate this thing. It's not what really toleration is. There's shelter in the Supreme. Right? I'm checking out the camera. So I'm going to, one more story, and we're done for our today's session. There's in chapter 89 of the 10th canto Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a very nice description of Bhrigu Muni proving the supremacy of Lord Vishnu. So chapter 89, Krishna book, or the Bhagavatam. Bhrigu is requested by sages who are assembled. Here's Bhrigu, a picture of Bhrigu. Bhrigu is one of the direct sons of Brahma. He came directly from the body of Brahma. So he's way up there in his learning. And one time on the shore of the river Saraswati, and there was a discussion amongst a group of sages. They were debating and considering who's the best, Brahma, Vishnu, or Shiva? Who's the greatest? They asked Bhrigu, can you reach the conclusion? We'll accept whatever you conclude. So Bhrigu accepted, and he thought the best way to decide who's best is to examine their tolerance, because that's a sign of greatness. So this is related to the Satyajit and Shamataka jewel story, because Krishna was wrongly accused. Malice, harsh. We went around door to door and vilifying Krishna. That's not nice. Bad. So who's great? So what did Bhrigu do? He had mystic powers. He went to the abode of his father. And when he came in the presence of Lord Brahma, what did he do? Nothing. He didn't say anything. He didn't even acknowledge his father's presence. He remained silent. It was a mental offense. With his mind, he didn't offer respect. So Brahma became angry. What kind of son are you? You're not even saying anything. No respect. What's this? This isn't. What kind of sage are you? He became angry. He was intolerant of his mental offense. Then Bhrigu went to Lord Shiva's abode, because Lord Shiva is his brother. And he started saying some insulting things, verbal offense, to Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva became angry. Then he went to the abode of Lord Vishnu. And when he went to the abode of Lord Vishnu, he came before Lord Vishnu, when with his foot he kicked him in the chest. And what did Vishnu do? Oh, I'm really sorry. Your soft feet must have been hurt by my hard chest. Can I massage your feet? I'm so sorry. So he was tolerant of a physical. So now we're going up in degrees of offense. Mental, verbal, and physical, or corporeal offense. Vishnu became very tolerant. He showed, Bhrigu went back and told the other sages, I got it. He is the most advanced, most elevated. Now, just hang on. So, the commentators say, purposefully, Brahma and Lord Shiva showed displeasure because they knew what was going on, and they wanted to honor Vishnu. Now, normally, Brahma is not going to become upset like that. Shiva's not going to become upset like that. But they did because they wanted to honor Vishnu, because they're Vishnu Bhaktas. That's a commentator's explanation. In Prabhupada's Krishna book, he writes, one's greatness has to be estimated by one's ability to tolerate provoking situations. So what do you do when someone provokes you? Supposing in your school there's a bully. Sometimes it happens. Maybe you know one of them. Maybe one of them picks on you, I don't know. But if you know of such a thing, you tolerate. Now how can you tolerate unless you have shelter of something that's more meaningful and deeper and sustaining within? Then you can tolerate. You don't have to grit your teeth. It's inconsequential, because you have a higher shelter and a higher happiness. Right? Good. Last slide. You've heard of Chanakya Pandit? No? No. Chanakya Pandit is a very learned person. He was a minister to a king, and he wrote a book on how to conduct yourself. So one of his little sayings is, just as gold is tested by rubbing on stone, a person's character is tested by adversity. Nice saying. I learned this one from one of my godbrothers. Badrinarayan Swami refers to this regularly. As gold is tested by rubbing on stone, a person's character is tested in adversity. So be ready, because sometime during your life you're going to meet adversity. Not just, someone may say something harsh. There's going to be other things that can happen. And when that's something that happens, your character is demonstrated. Just like Vatsal asked a nice question in the morning class. What was the exact question? What does indifference mean?
Was it not disturbed?
Yeah, not disturbed. So, thank you. What does being not disturbed mean? When there's cause for disturbance and you remain undisturbed, there's a Sanskrit word called dhira. So it's the same as this. a person's character is tested in adversity. So supposing someone does something that hurts you, they say something that's mean, or something. Your true character comes out. And the true character is demonstrated, that the high character, you remain undisturbed. Okay, you had your hand up.
Yeah.
What's that?
About the story of the
Which one?
sage of the Bhikkhu Muni.
Which one?
The Bhikkhu Muni.
Brigu.
Yeah, so after he kicked Vishnu, Lakshmi left him, and then he became into Govinda, and he needs like money to. Yeah, he needs like, money.
There are different versions of the story, but what you just narrated is not what's in the Bhagavatam. Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, didn't like what Brigu did. But, she's under the authority of Lord Vishnu. So she didn't, the Bhagavatam doesn't say she did something bad to Brigu. Did I miss something?
No.
Huh?
He said that Lakshmi left the abode.
Left which abode? Vishnu.
Vaikuntha. Yeah.
She left Vaikuntha. No such thing. I don't know what books you're reading, but
It's actually so the Srinivasa Kalyana, though Narayana came as a Srinivasa to please Lakshmi because she was a bit angry. And
at Brigu.
at Brigu, he actually started consoling Brigu that, instead of, although he kicked his chest, that is his, Lakshmi's place, she got mad.
She got angry.
She was angry, but instead Narayana was trying to, treat
Calm her down.
calm him down because he was very angry, Brigu. So she was unhappy, so she left. So he came to her to please her and get back to his.
Okay, this is a deity story. Okay. Okay, it's not what's in the Bhagavatam, but I'm fine. I've heard this narration. Go ahead.
You were speaking about, or this whole discussion has been about tolerance and of something that might happen to ourselves. What if we observe something that happens to somebody else that's like that?
It depends. It's not a good idea just to remain a silent witness to someone being abused, verbally, mentally, or physically. But if this is to oneself. Now, that depends on, my answer was it depends. Depends on the gravity, depends on the circumstance. So some action, some appropriate for you and the circumstance and the relationships with everybody, it is appropriate. And you have to decide based upon all those factors. Don't just, let somebody get verbally abused or physically abused. And, a mental offense can be it's a refinement of culture. I'll share this with Vatsal, which means I'm going to share it with all of you. But in visiting here at the temple, I noticed right away that the younger devotees were not allowing the elder devotees to recite the Bhagavatam verse first. And they were just, probably they were encouraged. I'm guessing that they were encouraged. But for me, it was like, that's not etiquette. So I started calling on the elder devotees to recite the verse first. And then I quietly, spoke to the leaders of those different groups. Please train them in etiquette. So I spoke to the leaders of those persons, because rather than doing it myself, I let the persons with whom they receive instructions and guidance and training to do it. So, similar, that's supposing, anyway, so that's course correction for someone that does something that's not like, a verbal offense or a corporeal offense, you take some action, but it's appropriate for the circumstance. Take those kinds of actions. Now I'm in a little bit of an anxiety. They should be encouraged to learn to recite the Sanskrit, because my guess is that's one of the things that some of the organizers want them to do. They want to learn to pronounce the Sanskrit. Unless they practice it, they're not going to learn. So I don't know how to wade through that one. Maybe another third time around. So men, ladies, and newer devotees, or something like that. So that's a detail. But so something should be done if you see something hurtful being done to another, particularly on the verbal or corporeal. You do something. You see something, you say something, as they say these days. Okay, I think we're done. And now I hope two things. I hope that you feel a little more curious and eager to read Krishna book, because it's got lots of nice pictures and nice messages and nice lessons. And the second thing is, it came up in yesterday evening's session, because there was a couple of very small children, and one of the ladies in our ISKCON organization, named Arudha Mataji, she's begun a project of taking the entire Srimad Bhagavatam, not just the 10th canto, and making it simplified for children with newer illustrations and stuff. So I've asked for a link of how that book can be purchased, so some of our younger devotees, if you're not so keen on reading Krishna book, you can read that one. And parents that have really small children, you can make that available to them. But it's nice to learn pastimes of Krishna and learn lessons from Krishna about how to live your life best. Good, better, and best. So you've been a really good group. I hope it's not been boring. You've been learning something. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Chapter 56 from Krishna book is the whole story. And then there's chapter 57. Okay, thank you. Yeah. I have some Mahaprasadam, so don't go away too far, unless you don't want some Mahaprasadam.